So now that we've comped the vocals, we're going to look at vocal editing. And again, like we were saying in the comping video, the amount of editing that you do to the vocal is massively determined by the style of song that it is. If it was a song that was an acoustic version of a song or a stripped back song, we would probably keep the tuning to a minimum, and the timing being a bit more free is absolutely what you want, so it sounds natural and sort of free and more warm and inviting to the listener. For a song like this, you want the vocals to be absolutely perfectly tuned and perfectly timed, especially because there's going to be layers. So each one has to be perfect, otherwise it'll start to sound messy. So what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll start tuning these and also timing them at the same time. So we're just going to use the flex pitch that's in Logic. So we'll go up here, turn on flex, and then we go to flex pitch. Here we are. So this should be relatively straightforward because it's all just the one take we're using. So we can see here we've got the sound waves. And depending on what the sort of what the take is, sometimes we would use the automatic time quantize. For this, because it's a lead part, we would probably just do it manually. When we're doing lots of backing vocals, if they're very sort of simple timing, like very staccato and quite on the beat, we would maybe just use the quantize. But for a lead part, we'd be more likely to do it ourselves. So editing is a combination of using the sort of technical aspect of the whatever program you're using to do it, and also using your ears. For example, right here, you would have a sort of decision to make as you go about, do you want this sound to land on the line, or do you want this to land on the line? So we're going to listen to it and we'll see what we think. Probably would set all of these to perfect pitch to start with, like that. And then we'll see how it's sounding. And using the metronome is important as well for the timing. So here, I'll just make sure this is soloed. Tell me I'm not wasting my time. So we probably want this T to land. You want the t sound to land, so it's probably somewhere around here. Let's see how that is. Tell me I'm... That was maybe just a teeny bit after. We can try it on the line to compare. Tell me I'm not... A little bit off.
Yeah.
But it might be just this. We'll see. Tell me I'm not... That was alright?
Maybe a little bit later. Sometimes you want it kind of in between.
Yeah. About that. Tell me I'm not wasting... So that you can hear that sounds nice. And whilst you want it to be really heavily edited, you also don't want it to sound too robotic. Mm-hmm. So there's a real fine line with dance music, particularly. It's such a fine line between getting the vocal to sound like it's a robot and getting it to sound like a very fine.
Sometimes you do want that.
Yeah, but it depends. For this, we still want it to sound like a human being.
Yeah.
So here we'd probably just drag this back to the line. Might be a case of bringing this up here, but probably alright. Tell me I'm not with. So I'm going to bring the vibrato down on these a bit just to make sure they're really nice and in tune.
And the vibrato is basically the amount that the note will stray from where the note should be.
Yeah. And again, the lower the vibrato is, the more it's going to sound robotic. So if you were editing Lewis Capaldi's vocals on a piano ballad for this, you would probably keep the vibrato very high, because the natural vibrato in his voice you really want to capture. Whereas with this, we want to basically eliminate most of that, because you want the note to be so spot on to match the sort of the level of detail of all the vocals together. Tell me I'm not wasting. So that's sounding pretty good. Again, what we quite often end up doing is we go back and we'll listen over stuff quite a few times, so we'll maybe go back and just slightly tune them more, but that sounds alright at the minute. So here, this is two notes, because you can hear that it's... Tell me I'm not wasting. Da-da. So we want that to be cut probably about here where it is, maybe just slightly before. So I'm going to just turn on the scissor tool, and we're jumping between.
And double clicking on a note puts it to perfect pitch, so it bumps it 100% to the nearest perfect note.
And
where it is.
Another thing that's really helpful to know when you're doing this is to know what key you're in. In this case, we're in A major. And And the reason that that's really helpful to know is because it means you know what notes are in that scale, so you know what notes it's most likely to be when you're dragging between. Tell me I'm not West. So that sounded pretty good. So we've brought the vibrato right down on them because they're such quick notes. It's okay if the vibrato's down. If it was a held note, we'd probably keep the vibrato higher so that it doesn't sound a bit mental. Tell me I'm not Western.
And again, as well, it's important to remember when you listen to this on its own, it can sound too edited or a bit fake, but when it's in with everything else, it doesn't sound like that. So comparing it to what it sounds like in the instrumental is always important. Because you'd find if you listened to any big dance song, if you listened to the vocal on its own, it would probably sound a lot more edited than you think it is.
Yep. Tell me I'm not wasting my time. Starting to sound pretty good. So here we've got a note in between. So we need to work out whether this should be up here or whether this should be down here. So let's just see. I'm not wasting. So we could try moving this. But I think that will not be right. I'm not wasting my. So you can hear that's what happens if you pull it to the wrong, it starts to drag the word out, which sounds weird, so we'll just undo that. Command Z. So I'm not wasting.
Yeah. And if you move that so you can see the wave, if you just go up or down. Quite helpful to look at where the wave is, because you can often tell if you've got a word like T for time, you see the bit there where that hits and you know roughly where you want to drag it to. So looking at the wave that you're not actually moving is quite helpful, because you move this, it moves that as well. So it's quite helpful to look at both the wave behind and the actual note itself.
Yeah. So this is starting to look pretty good. We'd probably want to just group these together. So this here is maybe the bit that we want, so maybe we want to move that slightly there. I'm not wasting my time. Sound pretty decent. And then move that back over here. Bring that vibrato down. I'm not wasting my time. So again, just pulling these to the lines. My time. Bring the vibrato down on them. So again, you can see here the main part of this word is landing probably just a teeny bit after when we'd want it to. Although maybe it's okay if we bring the vibrato down on that, maybe that's fine. The other thing, you can see here that there's a couple of bits that are much louder than the rest. So the other thing you can do is you can use editing, you can take the gain down a little bit, which we'll maybe go back over and do. That's the sort of thing we maybe do when we listen back to the full line. Because I'm already thinking this bit is probably just a teeny bit too loud. But let's see. Wasting my time. Sounded pretty good.
You can compare there the difference between when you have vibrato on and off for that word time there, because it's quite shaky.
Sure.
With the vibrato on.
Yeah, so this is it on full. Time. Take the metronome off to hear that again. Time. So you can hear it's time. You could actually put extra vibrato on, which you would occasionally maybe want to do if it was a sort of more ballady song, if you wanted to make it sound more. Time. Obviously for this, it sounds a bit ridiculous. You can hear it's time. So we'll take that right down to try and get that to sound really, really spot on the note. Just in my time. You can hear that.
And even there, you can hear that sounds almost, it sounds edited because it's so perfect. But when it's in the track and it's all flowing, it sounds fine. And that's what this type of music sounds like. So it is okay for it to sound a wee bit edited. Just in my time.
There we go. So that's sort of roughly that line done. So we'll now listen back over it and see if we've missed anything as we went along there. Tell me I'm not wasting my time. Sounded pretty good. These two notes here, I think we could bring the vibrato down even further. Tell me I'm not wasting my time. Oh, hello. I'm not wasting my time. Oh, that was just a little glitch there. Wasting my time. There we go. So that sounded pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with that.
Check it with the instrumental.
The only thing that I would say is probably this T and then this here just feel a teeny bit too loud. Now this is the sort of thing you could deal with in the mixing, because you could automate the vocal volume down a little bit here. But for ease, we would probably, if there's any words that hit too hard, you would probably just do it at this point, just so that it saves having to worry about that at a later stage. and you want to just keep that to an absolute minimum. So we're just bringing the gain down just a teeny bit here.
Tell me I'm not wasting my time.
And then the my. Let's see how that sounds.
Tell me I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah, so that sounded pretty good. So that's kind of that's basically what we do for all vocal editing. The main thing that you have to decide beforehand is just whether or not you want it to sound heavily edited, and then you're focusing on making sure the tuning's perfect and that the timing is perfect, and then finally that there's no words that are hitting too hard that you need to bring the gain down on slightly. So hopefully that makes sense. So now that we've done the edit, we would now want to listen to it with the instrumental so that we can compare, because quite often you'll notice there'll be the occasional sort of little thing you want to tweak once you hear it in the context. Also important to stress that when you're doing vocal editing, it's important to take breaks because it's such small details a lot of the time that the more you take breaks, the more you're going to be able to really listen with a clear head. Because quite often we'll think we've got it perfect, we'll be like, right, let's take a break, go away for half an hour, come back, and you listen and you go, oh.
And equally, if you are struggling with something and think, maybe this isn't perfect, I don't think this is perfect, you keep trying to change it. If you can't manage, take a 10-minute break, come back to it. Half the time you forgot where it was and you don't notice it anymore.
Yeah. Because
you've got too confused with doing it for too long.
Yeah. Or the thing that was a problem that you couldn't work out, you'll be able to solve really quickly. So we've got our vocal chain down the left here. We'll run through how what's in that later on. But for the time being, we'll just stick it on. We'll take the autotune off because we've done the editing. Sometimes autotune we would use as a stylistic thing, but we'll look at that later as well.
It's also sometimes good when you've recorded stuff, if you're wanting to check over your takes, putting some light autotune on to just make it sound a bit tighter, so it won't fix the timing of it, and it won't make the tuning perfect, but it can get it closer so you know if a take's good or not.
Yeah, but right now, because we've done the editing, we don't need to worry about that. But autotune can be very helpful sometimes. So we're just going to listen to this in the context with the instrumental and see what we think.
Tell me I'm not wasting my time.
So it sounded pretty good. It felt like that time dragged on a little bit.
I think the noise gate also brought the first note, made it dip a bit, so we probably don't need the noise gate because it's just one phrase.
Yeah, so that's what this is here, so we'll just take that off.
We'll talk about it. Tell me I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah, I feel like time
drags on a bit.
Yep.
Take.
Yeah, let's go.
And again, comping and editing don't need to be completely separate. So once you've done this, you can go and change takes.
Yep, so that's
for
exactly what we're going to do.
A section.
So we're going to just go in here and just literally the word time we think could just be a bit tighter. You can see here this one is a little bit shorter, so we would maybe use that one or this one even. So let's try this. Let's see how that sounds. Now we've not edited the timing or tuning of this, so we'll need to go back and do that. Let's hear. That sounds a bit better. So we'll just open this up again. We'll take all this stuff off. Solo the track. And we're going back down here. And we're going to move this along. Bring the vibrato right down. I'm not wasting my time. That felt much tighter. Feels much more punchy going into the chorus there. My time. Cool. So that's a prime example of something that we didn't notice when we were doing it on its own, but then as soon as you hear it in the context of the track, you think, oh. So let's put everything... Oh no, we'll take that off. So let's put everything back on that and see what it sounds like with the instrumental. Tell me I'm not wasting my time. Nice. Happy with that?
Easy.
Nice. So there we go. That is vocal editing.